All right, well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. I am Zenobia Harris. I'm the CEO for the Kent Chamber. As you all know, each month we have a luncheon. We have a special luncheon today. We have the Port of Seattle coming talking about diverse contracting, which if you all know me at all, I am very focused on equity and diversity and making sure that businesses, small and large, understand what their options are here in the community. So we're really grateful to have you today. And then I do have a little special treat at the end because I wasn't here last month, and so we typically do like this bloopers video. One of my staff started it, a couple years ago, and of course we have to keep that going. So I will share that with you all later on today. But because we have a few extra minutes and the room's pretty small, I do want to just maybe have folks stand up, say a little bit about their business, and when I say a little bit, I mean a little bit about your business, and hopefully you have a business card that you can have out as well. And then, of course, there'll be some networking at the end. I want to thank our sponsors. With our sponsors, we're able to have different speakers and food available for you as well. And then, of course, your contribution keeps our events going. And for those of you, last year we used a caterer, and that caterer was Cater for You. And this year we are switching back to Cafe Pacific is going to be our caterer moving forward. If that's important to anybody, I thought that we would make that note that we'll be using Cafe Pacific moving forward. So I do want to recognize, before we do the introductions, our board. If I can have them just kind of stand up and talk a little bit about themselves. I want them to actually come up front. They love it when I do this. I know, it's exciting. Welcome to the board. Welcome to volunteerism. Yes, awesome.
Hi, I'm Julie Schott, and I own the Madison Team Office Furniture, and I've been on the board now for 3 years, been a member for many years, and I'm serving on the Events Committee and the Ambassadors Committee.
Hi, my name is Yvonne Walker, and I am the Bank Relationship Manager over here at the Kent Heritage Bank right here in downtown Kent. I have been a member of the Kent Chamber for 8 years, on the board for 2, and a member of the Events and the Ambassadors Committee as well. And we are welcoming new members to both of those committees, so if you are interested, please come see Julie or myself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Frank Bicey. I'm with BBSI. We do a couple things. We do outsourcing of payroll, HR, and other business consulting for small businesses. And then we have a staffing branch where we do staffing, whether it's temporary, temp to hire, or direct hire. Thank you.
I'm Ben Morley. This is my first meeting here at the Kent Chamber. So, yeah, great to be here. I work with Nokomis Advisory Services, which is a mergers and acquisition firm on the sell side. So we help with that. And outside of that, I am a consultant working not exclusively, but a lot with Impact Washington, where I help businesses solve problems and grow revenue as an executive coach.
Greetings. My name is Tamara Chacos, and I'm a broker with Berkshire Hathaway. I sell residential and commercial real estate. So if you have questions, I'm always here.
Hi, everybody. I'm Teresa Schaefer. I'm the other half to Scott Schaefer. We run South King Media, a network of 8 local news and events websites for South King County. Our Kent unit is ilovekent.net, and I'm excited to be here and hear the bloopers.
Hi, I'm Jason Rittenhouse with ServPro Central Seattle, and we do large loss emergency cleaning and restoration. We cover our offices here in Kent, as well as Renton and Seattle, but we cover this area as well as Seattle as well, and east side up to North Bend. So hopefully you don't have to call me, but please do if you have any emergencies happening in your house or your offices.
Good afternoon. I am Elizabeth Wolowick with Better Properties Kent. I am a real estate broker working primarily with the older 55-plus market, although I love helping first-time home buyers and helping them through that process.
Hello, everyone. My name is Natika, and I am the CEO and founder of Pretty Cute Girl. My company offers luxury hemp plant-based quality products, topicals, balms, and things of that sort. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Damarlin Sisney, but please feel free to call me D. I am the CEO, founder of Hop Technology Solutions. Post my tenure at Amazon Web Services for 5.5 years. As a data and machine learning engineer, I opened up my own tech firm, and I've since grown it to 8 engineers. We're all BIPOC and focus on small businesses, nonprofits, and have since gotten into state and local contracts as well. So making tech easy, AI easy for y'all, so let me know if y'all got any questions.
I'm Sam Pace, and I represent the 8,000 realtors in King County before local governments on housing, quality of life, and economic vitality issues.
Hello, my name is Emily Sipos. I am with Weatherly Inn over on Lake Meridian, or right by Lake Meridian. We are senior living, specialized in memory care, so we do work with those that have memory loss, Alzheimer's, or some sort of dementia. I'm here to help families, point them in the right direction, and give them any resource or guidance during that rough time. I'm very glad to meet all of you guys here.
Hello, I am Nyesha. I am the owner of Glam Slim. It's a medical spa right here in downtown Kent on East Meeker. We specialize in Botox and lipo injections, help people with semaglutide, cool sculpting, all of that great, wonderful stuff. And we also train in aesthetics for anybody that wants to get in that industry.
Good afternoon, and welcome to Green River College. I'm an office assistant. I'm at the front desk, and I'll wave you all out of here. We have 4 campuses. The main campus is on Lee Hill in Auburn. We have a campus in Enumclaw. One at Auburn Center is at the airport, Auburn Airport, where we train pilots. And was it the ones that direct the planes in? And then we have the one here at Kent Station. And our main focus right now, I guess, we have some business management classes, but we also have English as a second language for many persons. And so we have several classes on that. And so just want to welcome you to our campus.
Hi, my name is Adora Thomas. I'm from Abyssinia Hair Salon here in Kent, and we have one in Renton. Abyssinia Hair Salon clinic is focusing right now for helping to regrow the hair from alopecia, stress and everything like that. If you have any people that losing a problem about their hair, Abyssinia Hair Salon is willing to help, show them how to gain back their confidence and look, right? Again, and we have opening hair beauty school in Renton, and it's a non-profit. We're almost done, a few more paperworks, and I hopefully we're willing to open it by next month. Again, Abyssinia Hair Salon Clinic here in Kent and Renton. Thank you.
Hey everybody, my name is Michael Downing. I'm here on behalf of Raj Sidhu. We work at Intech Consulting, where we help businesses manage their technology. We provide IT and support services for the Kent Chamber of Commerce. And my role is a GRC consultant. I help people and organizations understand their cyber risk and meet security requirements so they can keep their contracts with the Department of Defense. My goal is to bolster manufacturing and make our region a better place to work, live, and raise our families. Thank you.
And he's new. Well, I guess best is for last. My name's Steve Davis. I'm with Salem Media. It's a Christian teach and talk radio station as well as a conservative news talk station. We're actually national throughout the United States, and we're here to help support small business to do and get your message and your word out to the people that you're looking to get it out to.
Hi, Larry McDaniel. Everybody just calls me Larry Mac. I'm with a company called MCA Associates, and we have 4 storage facilities from Federal Way up to Renton, and also 3 strip malls, commercial real estate. I do a lot of work for all of them, mainly in the Kent area, but that includes camera surveillance, alarms, doors, fence maintenance, whatever has to get done. But I'm the general manager for MCA Associates. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Captain, ooh, that's bright. Captain Doug Benjamin, Towboat, Seattle. If you're out on Lake Washington, Central Puget Sound, and you're on somebody's boat, other people's boats are probably the best to be on. Just pay them a little money for the gas. Otherwise, you got to pay for all that maintenance. Anyway, you break down, we come and rescue you. It's a vessel assist. I own and operate Towboat Seattle. Been in business for about 5 years. I love what I do. I couldn't think of a better job. So when you guys come out to play, I'll see you.
Okay, I'm not going to scream in this. My name's Chris Brandon. I'm with Commercial Cleaning Services, etc., Incorporated, and I've been in business for 40 years in this area. I clean up residential and commercial. I always refer to ServPro. I don't do what you do. We take care of condominium complexes in the common areas. We also do facilities, repairs. We're kind of like your best friend if you get locked in an elevator in your condominium association. We're the ones who know how to open up the door. We have the keys. We help out the fire department, save you, and we talk to you while you're in there. We pressure wash for the real estate community. We help you get your properties in order to sell. We make things shine, and we love what we do. We've been on all of the stadium projects throughout the years. I know a lot of the contractors, and I've had a lot of fun doing it. So if you need any cleaning services, facility services, we're here to make your building shine.
All right, okay, there we go. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Peyton Stanfill. I'm with Valley Cities Behavioral Health Care. We serve the mental health and substance use disorder needs of King County. We have clinics ranging from all the way to North Seattle, including one here in Kent off of Gow Street, all the way down to Lakewood.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Jeanette Tweedy, and I am the founder and CEO of the House of Matthew Permanent Supported Housing. We're located in Tacoma. We provide housing and wraparound services for individuals that transitioning from homelessness, incarceration, coming out of recovery center. We not only provide the housing, we have all the life skills services, clothing bank, furniture bank. We have all the services anyone would need that's trying to get back on their feet. And also, so my husband and I, we're the founder and CEO, and we also own a commercial cleaner business, top to bottom janitorial services, and we do only commercial cleaning. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, well, thank you guys so much. We don't always get a chance to do that, but when we have a small room and we have a lot of new folks in the room, it's always important to try to socialize. This is the most relaxed luncheon that I've been to in a very long time, so I'm trying to bring my energy down just a little bit because normally I'm like jumping up and down. And so I'm excited for our speaker to come up. There will be an opportunity for Q&A as well. But again, this is all about information and finding out how and what the port is doing and how you can be involved in that. I'm really excited. So without further ado, I will welcome Lawrence Coleman.
Well, welcome, and I appreciate the opportunity to come here today. Again, Lawrence Coleman, Port of Seattle, and so Zenobia has volunteered to be my clicker, and so my hope today is that you walk away with a little bit of better understanding of how to do business with the Port of Seattle. We like to really just share information with folks, but also help them understand that there are opportunities for some. But also, keep it real, sometimes there aren't opportunities, right? And I think I've been doing this work for about 10 years now in the government contracting space. You'll hear a lot of government agencies talk to you about vendor connect sites and e-procurement sites, right? And I feel like there's some missing information with regards to just being real with folks, right? And so my hope is to share a little bit about what the port does, what we buy, save some space to get y'all to ask me any questions you like. Do my best to answer them. And then I also have some strategies and some tips, just generally speaking, when we talk about how to do work with a government agency, right? So if you're in that space. I heard a lot of folks mention lots of the work that they did. I heard a great amount of folks that do some scope that a government agency would, secure a contract with you. So that's pretty cool. I also want to commend y'all, the small businesses. How many times have y'all had to stand up there and talk about in 10 seconds what you do, right? That's your life, right? So my hope is, as someone that represents the Port of Seattle, is this, we're committed to trying to make it easier for folks to understand, access opportunities, and make ourselves accessible, because at the end of the day, we can't do the work that we do without you. So just really quick, sounds like you all are familiar with the Port of Seattle. Raise your hands if you're not. Right? Right? So the Port of Seattle does quite a bit. I'd say in a nutshell, it's really an economic development, right? A lot of the things that we do is in the spirit of economic development, whether that's travel, whether that's transporting goods, whether that's building various things. I'm not sure if folks know that, but the Port of Seattle is a huge landlord. We secure all kinds of spaces. We acquire spaces, manage those spaces. And so there are even contracts that we seek out real estate agents to support and provide some consulting, right? Well, and we'll talk about that when we get to strategies, right? We'll talk about that when we get to strategies. But just in a nutshell, again, the main thing that folks hear about when you hear about the Port of Seattle is the airport, right? And the airport's been doing phenomenal. I take great pride in that. Lance Little, who's the director over there, takes great pride in that, and us being one of the top 5 airports in the United States. Some folks may say even on a world level. I don't know. I don't want to set us up too high. But I've seen some cleaner bathrooms, though, in some other places. So we get on them quite a bit for that. So. But just know that airport is kind of the claim to fame, but there's tons of other things that the port does. Cruise ship terminals. We do quite a bit of work from an economic standpoint, so working with communities. So we do some work quite a bit in the South Duwamish area, operating our South King County Fund. But probably one of the things I really wanted to leave you with, again, kind of back to the port being an economic driver, is like we're responsible, and y'all are responsible, those that interact with the port, for over 200,000 jobs, and that generates over $7 billion in wages. So whether that be contracts, whether that be in some other engagements with the Port of Seattle, but again, kind of back to who we are, we're an economic generator and take that responsibility very seriously. And so if I had to categorize, I'd say our areas of focus: aviation, maritime, economic development, and sustainability. So I'd say that makes up who the port is and what we do and how we drive the various missions and the goals that we have, all right? And so again, my hope today is to talk specifically about contracting in that space, right? And so for the rest of this presentation, I'll just be talking about who I am with regards to the team that I run in diversity and contracting. And then again, my hope is that you walk away with a little bit more than you knew when you came in here, but maybe you do know everything about government contracting, how to do business, and to try to demystify it a little bit.
I'm saving it so I can
get the
clicker in for you.
Gotcha. So while she's doing that, I'll just keep going. But just what the Port of Seattle buys. If you could think of anything that someone at a government agency or what a government agency would need, we pretty much buy it, right? Let's see. So you're good. There we go. Oh, I see what you're doing.
Your thing is inside of the USB.
I act like I don't know what we buy.
Yeah.
While she's pulling that up, probably one of the most interesting contracts I see that went out last year was a contract for social media influencer. I thought that was interesting. And I was like, man, I need to quit this and get my son some work and manage what he's doing for the Port of Seattle. Other things we've seen, materials and supplies, computers, and again, this is not designed to be an exhaustive list, but my hope is to generate, y'all's thinking, and maybe pique your interest in trying to be creative on proposing maybe to the port. And I'll talk as we get toward the end of the presentation about just contracting types and, points of entries and things like that. Non-professional and other government services. I thought I heard somebody that does janitorial services, right? So we do that. So whether that's probably, I would say the contract that generates the largest diverse spend is our janitorial contract in the various zones there. If anyone had to guess, how much do you think that contract is worth?
$2 million.
I heard 2. How much? Man, how much? 200 million?
You're talking about all the spaces?
Yeah, just roughly.
Does that include the Seaport Alliance?
No, just the airport. Just the airport and the zones. And this, any other guesses? So one zone is about a contract for about 3 years for $20 million. So there's one of the things we do is we establish diverse goals. And so we put a 20% goal on there, which meant that 20% of this $20 million contract had to go to a woman or minority business, right? And so again, back to economic opportunities and the thing that we do to try to drive that. So pretty sizable goal there. I'd say non-professional are things that you don't need a license for. And so, for example, if you're providing some consulting advice, that's not in the engineering or professional and technical space, I'd say that's some of the non-professional other services. And so even I heard when we were talking about, I mentioned real estate, right? So again, there was a real estate consulting contract that went out. That wasn't in the professional and technical space. It was in the non-professional. Not to say that you're not professional, but it was just in that space, right? So a lot of what we do and how we go about doing things in terms of contracts is based and rooted in law, right? So there's specific laws, RCWs, that drive how we are to contract. And I say that happens for every government agency, right? And so as you kind of, get interested in doing government contracting, it is important to understand some of these things and these nuances because the way a contract is labeled could determines your point of entry. And so that's important to kind of hold that and understand that. Professional and technical is a huge part of what we do. If you think about an airport, we're constantly, if you're driving around here, you're constantly looking at construction. The airport's tore up here, there, but before that happens, there's planning that happens, right? And so we engage with folks that are in that A&E, architecture and engineering space, to get all kinds of support. Construction services goes without saying. We do quite a bit of work. We're doing some work now. The project just kicked off. I don't know if any of y'all went to the breakfast yesterday. It was like the state of the port. Talked about probably some of the upcoming contracts, some of the upcoming construction projects on our airway and taxiway. But construction is quite a bit has quite a bit of spend for one. And the port does quite a bit of it. And then lastly, concessions. So the port does quite a bit of work in that space. And I talked to a woman earlier about that. I'll touch on that. Our team doesn't manage that, but I can certainly provide a little bit of information. I'm not going to lie to you. Concessions, it's tough to get in the airport. And I'd say it's tough to do government contracting, right? And so, again, we try our best to help folks understand that. It certainly takes some work. It can be done. But it takes some work, I think some ownership on our end to make sure that folks are informed and have good information, and then some work on the folks pursuing to make sure that they're giving us what we need. So in hopes of ultimately securing a contract. Zenobia, you left me, man. Oh, look at you. Give it up for your CEO, y'all. Look at that. All right. So still, let's see. I feel like I passed it. So how the port buys. So when I was talking a little bit about just some of what we buy, and so just wanted to tell you a little bit about how we buy. when we talk about dollar amount, I'd say anytime you're thinking about doing some work for any government agency, it's helpful to understand the dollar amount, because that's going to determine how you're going to approach that respective government agency. For the Port of Seattle, anything that goes above $199,000, you're going to see a publicly advertised contract. And so those various things are construction, some public work, some of the major construction that you see going on, some of the consulting, which we call service agreements, and then our goods and services. So again, just tracking the dollar. And then we have some other thresholds. So anything under $199,000, you get into a different space, right? Some of the direct buy requirements are, I can engage with you, for example, at between $1 and $5,000, where me as a government employee, if I have a purchase card, if I want to use a purchase order, I can just buy what you're selling. Between, let's just say, I think it's, let's say $5,000 and, $199.01. I'll have to get a competitive quote. And so competitive means I have to have multiple folks, but multiple is just more than one, right? So then you start to think about, well, how do I engage with someone to be for these direct buy opportunities? And we'll talk about that in a little bit. So I always like to help folks understand the dollar threshold, because that's going to determine your approach. So whether it's going to be at that direct buy level, or whether you're going to maybe chase a contract as a sub, or just on your own in direct engagement with the Port of Seattle. Lastly, airport dining and retail, so concessions and vending. So some folks think that, I have a product, I can just set up shop in the Port of Seattle. That's not how it works, right? So the Port is very much interested in making sure that its brand is upheld, also that the services align with some of the customers. So there is a process. I can tell you that most of the concession and vending, it's held on, there's a schedule. And so there's a kiosk program that's available for folks. I want to say it's every couple of years that folks propose, and then you have the opportunity. And the kiosk program is designed to help businesses scale to eventually having a full build out, right? If you had to give a rough guess, how much do you think a build out at the airport would cost? 100,000. I heard 100,000. 800,000. 800,000, $500,000, yeah. Let's just say if you had a build out of a small shop, right? No seating, but maybe just some products in there. Yeah. I mean, you're upwards of $500,000 to several million, right? You have our brand to adhere to. You have the various specs. Anything that, imagine, I thought I heard some folks that have some retail businesses here, right? How much does your build out cost? So think about that, and that's going to be applied to the Port of Seattle. I mean, you're upwards of several hundreds of thousands, if not several million. And so it's pretty tough. But what the Port's desire is to do is to support folks. And so we do have a kiosk program that gets them to scale up to that. And so the kiosk program is on a term limit. So for example, you'll enter the program and you'll have, in your case, right, you may be selling, your oils and things like that. You have a kiosk there. You're able to do that, let's just say for like a year. And then someone else is allowed to do that for like a year. And the hope is you're building the experience, hopefully building revenue. And then when the time comes for an RFP for one of these concession opportunities for a build out comes, you're ready, right? As you can imagine, it's a nice customer base. You have an exclusive market, passengers, so it generates quite a bit of money for folks that do eventually secure them. Go ahead, my man.
The direct buy $199,000 threshold, is that per contract? If I have three $150,000 contracts with you, does that trigger the $199, or is it simply the contract amount?
Great question. It's per the contract, so each contract. So in theory, you can have several direct buy contracts where we engage with you. So it's not tied to the business, it's tied to the contract opportunity.
I was thinking about D here, who's got the sorry for calling out, but who's got the computer consulting.
Mm-hmm.
So if he's got 3 different kinds of messes that he's going to clean up for the board, each on a separate contract, that wouldn't jump into the 199.
Right. Yep. So it's tied to the opportunity. Any other questions before I move on? Okay. Where do you find contracts? And maybe I'll show the screenshot first. And so, are y'all familiar with e-procurement sites? Yeah? Okay. So all of us have them. You'll go to these outreach events, marketing events, networking events, and what's the first thing they say? Sign up for the e-procurement site. That's what they say. You first and foremost, yes. My advice to you is to put us to work, okay? There's hundreds of people coming, and this is the first thing that folks say. They say, go sign up for the e-procurement site, right? Understand the components of them, but also put us to work. You know, we work for you and put us to work, all right? So this is what our e-procurement site looks like. So anytime you're trying to find most of those contracts over that $199,000 level are going to be here. There are times where we have, I'd say we just call it direct buy for the sake of this presentation, but some of those smaller contracts, we might not know maybe a particular industry. We might not know who's out there in that field, and so we will advertise it here. So even if it's, let's just say $50,000 in some cases, right? It just depends on the project manager. But just know that this website is valuable for you just so you can see kind of the opportunities that are coming out. I'd say folks that get pretty seasoned and you kind of get committed, or maybe you have some support here, you understand kind of how to navigate them. You want to look at closed opportunities too to help you understand some future on what we buy. I think that's super helpful. Future and current opportunities. And we've done our best to try to classify them just to help find things. You'll be able to add your credentials, so whether you're a woman or minority business or whether or not you're a small business. And why that matters is, for one, if you identify as a woman or minority business, it helps me establish targets, right? So when folks don't identify themselves, it's harder for us to justify that there's folks in a respective industry. So if anytime you sign up for our site or any other site, make sure that you identify yourself, because it's super helpful and it helps us help you and helps us get more opportunities to our small and diverse community. Again, you're able to register for specific opportunities based on what you do. And for a lot of public agencies, you'll hear industry classification codes. Are y'all familiar with that? I'm pretty sure you are if you're in business. There's SIC codes, but for most of us, we use NAICS codes, North American Industry Classification, something like that. And then lastly, you're able to sign yourself up for a roster. For us, we're making some changes to, we keep an eye on legislation, and different things change at the state that makes us change some things. And so for us, we have a small business, not a small business roster, but a small works roster. So those of you that are in construction, and that has some thresholds associated with it. We no longer have a goods and services roster nor a consultant roster, but in the event that we do, you are able to, it's still there so you can sign up for it. But again, I would say the greatest purpose for you in using this site is to be identified and be aware of opportunities as they come up. So I'll pause here before I kind of talk a little bit more about what I do specifically for the port and for you all, and to see if there's any questions on some of what I said earlier. Yes, ma'am.
About the small businesses setting up at the airport.
Mm-hmm.
Does the Port of Seattle support tenant improvements? Do they do the TI, or is that on the vendor?
That's on the vendor. That's on the vendor. And when I get to some strategy and some suggestions, the cool thing about the airport is that, we have a role, but there's also tenants there, right? So that's a whole nother opportunity that's there for you, right? So Alaska, Southwest, so on and so forth, all these different folks, right, that you can tap, if you're understanding how to navigate and, how to engage with the right folks and, to get some of those contacts. Because sometimes the opportunity isn't with the airport or with the Port of Seattle, but it's adjacent, someone that does some work for us where you can find some opportunities. So what I specifically do for the Port of Seattle is my job is to see to it that the port is doing its job, and when it's spending, to consider diverse businesses. And I would tell you that any program that's out there that says they do what we do, they have all of these same components, and it's about 4 of them. So for us specifically, there's a policy resolution called 3737. That's kind of our guiding principle that kind of gives us the authority from the commission, right? The commission that folks elect. There's elements connected to procurement. What I do specifically for the port, my team, we establish some of those targets that I mentioned earlier about XYZ% going to women and minority businesses. We do outreach and engagement. We try to show up as much as we can at events like this and some of the events that we host ourselves at the Port of Seattle. And then there's an element of contract and compliance, which my team does as well. What that looks like is if there's a goal or contract with a goal, let's just say we say 10% on aviation planning contract. Our team keeps an eye to make sure that the prime is on track for that. And then if they get off track, we enforce the goal, right? And so various things that we do. But ultimately, I would say that every government agency that has a program such as ours has these elements. Look a little bit different, maybe called a different name, but just know that these are some of the things that we're charged with to see to it that folks are getting opportunities with the Port of Seattle. This is just a little bit of information about just spending. As you can see here, just last year, just moving down to the green line, the port spent about $155 million on just some of the contracts. Of that $155 million, 24.1 million went to women and minority businesses. So we certainly still got some work to do. Every year we reset these, and each of the departments and the divisions establish goals. But just know that there is a mechanism to try to hold the whole port accountable to what it said it was going to do. So how to get connected. So if you're interested, if I piqued your interest a little bit, there's more. We hold what we call port generator classes, workshops, where you can get in-depth information. This one is one we're really, really excited about. How many of y'all have chased an RFP from a government agency before? Show of hands. How was that for you? Right. You're like, challenging, right? So you probably wish like you could pay somebody just to submit the RFP, let me show up to the interview. Yeah. It is hard. I'm not gonna lie to you, man. Like the stuff that we ask for folks to put in to respond to us is sometimes crazy. So one of the ways that we show up is we try to show up in these processes to tell whoever's putting it together, the PM, that and have them second guess themselves or question themselves, like, do I need all of those ridiculous requirements? So for example, like, do you need 10 years of cleaning experience to clean, right? Some of y'all are parents, we've been cleaning up for a long time, right? So, and those are ways that we show up like in an equitable way, just to make sure that, folks have a real opportunity. And some of the ways that we put together things just aren't fair. Some of them cover our butts, right? If we're being honest, like government agencies are risk averse, and for good reason, right? We've been entrusted by the public to make sure that the dollars are spent, and we're good stewards of those dollars, right? And so just understanding that aspect is sometimes it just gets shucking down to like it's difficult, right? And so anyways, this is a pretty exciting workshop for us. It's over a few class periods. And so in this class period, or excuse me, during this workshop, folks will learn just how to develop an RFP. So we're pretty excited about that. And just know that I'll provide this this presentation to Zenobia with some active links, and so y'all will be able to click on the links and find all of this. So don't necessarily worry yourselves about keeping notes or anything like that unless you have some questions. But we'll provide this for you, and then I'll have some active links there. But again, on our website, again, I'll provide the link. You'll be able to search the various workshops we have. Maybe this one isn't for you. We just had one, if you were in the construction space, a workshop with various construction projects that are upcoming. And again, we do this throughout the year, between 1 and 2 every month that we have these various workshops at the Port of Seattle. Go ahead.
So I have a quick question. So requesting the RFP, so do you guys also, if you're making it more equitable to all stakeholders versus RFP can be challenging. How about if you're looking at an RFI or RFQ? So, and that's just something I do in my day job as a project management, and that helps individuals be able to still provide that information. But then you're just requesting information or qualifications prior to putting the proposal together to see if there's any interest in both parties. So that's just a question.
What was the question? I heard RFI.
RFP process, because you're submitting a proposal, but prior to the proposal, then requesting an RFI. So for information, you're requesting information from this small company or just their qualifications prior to them preparing a proposal. That's my question.
I hear you. And acronyms and processes look different, right? So when you said RFI, I immediately went to construction because there's RFIs in construction, right? And so so there's requests for right, and so. And I would say that this workshop is going to help for that. And so RFP, and it gets kind of thrown around, but RFP requests for proposals, or the intent is to help people understand when you're responding, how to better respond at the end of the day. And then they'll get into some of the nuance and some of the particulars of when you're preparing a response. So, but to answer your question, without maybe using RFI, I would encourage folks to get questions answered at pre-proposal meetings, right? And so you're able to get some of those questions answered. Project managers are there. You're able to get into some of the details. And then just know that you can always ask the contract administrator when something is advertised, where you can get some detailed information about the particular scope, to help you put together something, or to get something clarified.
Are these training courses specific to the port?
Correct. Yep. These are specific to the port. We don't do many general ones. So sometimes we'll do some general things on, like, I think last year we had a training on bonding, capacity building, right? That's information that can be used kind of in a wider space, like outside of the port. But generally, when we put them on, they are for port processes and port contracts.
And so specific to her question, is the RFQ and the RFI part of your RFP process? Is it all one process?
Yes. And you're not going to see, and again, it depends on the contract that you're chasing, right? So these multiple steps, without going into too much details, you're not going to see until you get into design build contracts, right? And so so all of the acronym soup about RFI, RFP, most of those are reserved for construction and construction related kinds of contracts, right? So if you're just doing like some consulting or something else that's not that, you're typically just going to just see an RFP, right? And so, but there'll be some components of, they'll touch on all of that to help folks understand just the various routes and, again, the points of entries and how to chase work at the Port of Seattle. And so my hope was to maybe just share some insight. I learned so much from businesses. I'm a business owner myself, but I pick up so much from questions like you managing these types of programs over the last 10 years. And I just wanted to share just some of that. But before I do that, just want to check in with you all to see if y'all had any questions. Good? Okay. All right. So these are just some things, again, over the course of doing this work for some time, some things I share with folks. And if it sparks anything, or if you have some questions, feel free to shout them out, raise your hand, and we'll kind of get them answered. But again, my hope is to share just real information with folks, you know, to help them understand government contracting in general. Sometimes it's not for everybody, right? And so I'd say the first thing is that you have to understand where you're at with regards to your business, right? Some folks, I engage with folks that just quit their job, and then it works out. If I had to pick on you for a second, how long was it before you, my man that does computer consulting or IT consulting, how long was it before after you transitioned from, I think you said Amazon earlier, AWS to securing a, let's just say a government contract? How long was that?
So it took steps.
Yeah.
I navigated over to community. I started with small businesses, nonprofit organization, built up, got international clients, and it took about 8 months.
Yeah. Which is pretty fast. Like to be real, that was a grind. That's all right. Shout out to you. And you said you had some government contracts?
Yeah, our first one was with the Office of Economic Development, and then moved into some work with TDS.
That's all right. That's all right. At the state. Very cool. Very cool. Very cool. But as he can attest to, you have to know where you're at. You know, it's a grind. And I've seen folks get a certification. They sit on the list, and sometimes folks just think it's going to happen. But it really takes some work, and it takes some understanding that you got to start somewhere, and somewhere that first start is not with a government agency. So I always tell folks, just try to get an understanding of where you're at if you're going to chase some government contracts. Procurement contracting thresholds, as I covered earlier, it's important to understand those because that's going to determine what your entry is going to look like, whether that's a direct engagement or whether that's through sub-consulting. I'd say engagement strategies are very, very important. You get invites. You all showed up here, and you're like, I don't know what this dude from the Port of Seattle is going to talk about, but you may be some value. So I hope this is some value right here. But you have to value your time. I see so many people that run to various workshops. For example, our Port of Seattle workshop, that's going to be a 6-week commitment, right? Do you have 6 weeks to commit? Is it worth your time? And so it's helpful for you to understand, how do I make the most of my time when I am trying to do engagement, things like that, right? But it's a real question that you ask yourself. And again, in keeping with that, make sure that they're meaningful, they provide some connection for you. And lastly, kind of in the engagement space, or two things. Community organizations, such as your chambers are critical, right? You get an opportunity to get not only engaged, but you get various folks that show up and want to provide some information. And then, as I spoke to earlier, pre-bids and pre-proposals are very important if you're chasing government contracts. Our percentage of pre-bid, pre-proposals, well, not percentage, I would say we probably see about between 10 and maybe 20 attendees. And it's even lower for those that are diverse. And so I encourage y'all, if you're interested in something, even if you're not completely familiar with it, there are opportunities to engage with the port and any other government agency. The PM is there, the project manager, as well as those that are chasing it as a prime consultant, right? So if you don't walk away with anything, I'd love to see more folks show up at our pre-bid and pre-proposal meetings because they are, to be honest, they're poorly attended, right? And it's a shame because we give great information there, and it's a live contract and you have an opportunity. So if you are interested in something that you see, just show up. They're all online most of the time. The only time we get back in person is when we're doing site walks or site visits and things like that, like for the custodial services one. They had a site visit, but again, they're critical and I think super helpful. Even if you don't chase something, you certainly learn about our processes a little bit more on a regular basis, and you get to engage with folks that are making some decisions. Any questions there before I move on?
Where do you hold those meetings, at the airport?
Most of them are online. They're still virtual. Yep.
You were saying show up.
Show up virtually.
Oh, virtually.
Virtually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Like I said, the only ones that we've seen as of late since 2020 have been anytime we had like a site walk, but they're still being held virtually. Yep. And they're quick. They're between 10 and 20 minutes. There's some space for networking that's left after as well. Certification. How many of y'all are familiar with certification? Yeah? Yeah? Okay. Is it required?
Well, it depends on if it is a requirement, right? If you're saying it's required to be certified, or if you're offering any additional resources for that particular, what they're applying.
Gotcha. Certification is not required to do business with a government organization.
Is it required to be known as a woman-owned or minority business?
Bam. There you got it. Right? So, and those are two classifications I want to point out. I've seen folks that get certified as diverse businesses and think that it's required to even do business. I've seen people set up businesses, they've been operating for a year, and they say, I can't perform on a government contract unless I'm certified. No. If you can do the work, chase the work. Don't wait on a certification, right? And the last thing I'll mention on certification is every agency has a different requirement, right? At the end of the day, certification is designed to see to it that the money is going to who it's intended for, right? So for bona fide businesses. The Port of Seattle, we allow for self-identification. So when you get to this Vendor Connect, you're able to identify yourself as a woman or minority business if you meet these requirements, and that's good enough for us to be counted towards our goals, right? So just keep that in mind. City of Seattle is the same way, right? City of Seattle is the same way. So let's see. It doesn't guarantee work certification, right? You have to do your part in making yourself visible, making sure that folks know that you can do the work, so on and so forth. And I'd say some folks spend too much time trying to have direct engagement with public agencies when there's tons of subcontracting and sub-consulting opportunities available. So don't spend so much time that it's causing you frustration when you could be working as a sub-consultant or a subcontractor to someone that has the main contract, right? So certainly some value there. And so in keeping with that, though, with sub-consulting and subcontracting, say you engage with, XYZ big, consulting firm and you want to be a sub. Now, it's important that you understand what their requirements are, right? So although the ports may say, hey, we allow for self-identification, but XYZ big consulting firm may say, hey, to do businesses with us, because I want you to work at various places and on various contracts, they may have some specific things for you, right? They may require certification. So it's important to make sure that you ask those questions. Navigating relationships, I think, is critical when you're chasing contracts. I would say that, when you're trying to get, let's just talk about just really quick some of maybe the pitfalls I see if you do happen to get a contract. I've seen sub-consultants and subcontractors not get an executed contract. Sounds crazy, but it happens. Folks get excited and they don't fulfill the other piece, and I've seen folks not get paid. So I'd say make sure that you get a signed contract before you engage with someone. It sounds silly, but it does happen, all right? My last note here is about the fact that we're a government agency, and I say it's a benefit to that, right? Where if you're dealing with sometimes private, there's no oversight. And so this last bullet here is utilize elected officials, commissioners to advocate on your behalf, right? That looks different for everyone, but if you're not getting the results that you think that you should get, right? There's nothing wrong with sending a message, right? Tell my boss's boss, right? Tell my boss, right? Because it helps inform changes, right? It certainly helps hold us accountable to the things that we said that we're going to do, which is to ensure opportunities. So certainly leverage folks, in those spaces to advocate for you if you do run into some challenges. So here's some other practical considerations. I don't think folks sometimes understand that even if you are as a sub-consultant, there's still insurance requirements. So make sure that you understand what the various insurance compliance requirements are and be in compliance with it. And that looks different, just depends on the type of contract, right? Again, we're risk averse and we want to make sure that the risk is shared with you as well. Understand that regardless of the contract, you're going to have some float. The bureaucracy is the bureaucracy. And just, again, I have nothing to do, I got to keep it real with you. It takes about an average of at least 60 days from the time that you've done something to get paid. That's beyond, and that is here in every other government agency. We're sometimes not always interested in speed. We want it done right. But, we hold the cards, and it sometimes happens. So I encourage folks to make sure that you have some float. So whether you have staff, and you got to maintain payroll, or whether you got to keep buying supplies. We do step in, our team, when things go, get awry and start to be delayed. And that's how you leverage folks that manage these programs at various agencies. And so every public agency has a person like me. All right, so just know that there is some help. But also know the practical thing here is to make sure that you have at least 60 days afloat. Public disclosure, y'all familiar with what that is, right? So you talk about strategies, like if there's a business consultant out there that's not giving you advice on how to leverage public disclosure and you pay them, get your money back, right? That's how you find out real previous pricing. Is through public disclosure. It's available for you, right? That's another benefit, again, of being doing public work. This is your information as well, so access it, use it.
Are you guys bound by the Freedom of Information Act, like the federal government?
I don't know what the Free Movement Information Act is.
Well, somebody could go and access a contract that you've already issued and see how that person got that deal.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
All transparent.
Transparent, yep. There's some information, of course, that'll be redacted, if it's too identifiable. But yeah, no, that's sure you have access to that information. It's the public's. Yes, sir.
At the state level in Washington, it's called the Public Records Act, and it's at RCW 42.56. And there's an organization called the Washington Coalition for Open Government.
My man.
It has a good website that has a bunch of assists at the bottom to tell folks how to use it, how to use the act. You get the kind of stuff you're talking.
There you go, right? Let's see. Advocacy and growth. We can't do this work without feedback. And so I'd say it's right now, we're kind of in an interesting time right now. I don't know if y'all been paying attention. We're paying attention this summer, right? With what happened with affirmative action, right? So our programs, and specifically for diverse programs, they're under attack right now, right? And so, we certainly appreciate when folks advocate, for change. And I say, as a small business, when you win and you advocate for change, we all do, right? So never, feel like your voice can't be heard, and it benefits all of us when you do advocate, right? So whatever you advocate for, is certainly helpful. And lastly, I say explore referrals from contacts. As I mentioned earlier, sometimes the engagement isn't directly with us. I'd say the folks that have been probably I've seen that had the most success have been folks that said stuff like, if you can't help me, can you provide me somebody who can, right? So all of us government agencies, we have some relationship. So if I'm not buying what you're selling, maybe Sound Transit is, right? Maybe DES is, so on and so forth. So as you approach folks, come in with that approach. Some people get hell-bent on maybe working for the airport or maybe working for Sound Transit, so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, you want an opportunity, or you should want an opportunity, and that opportunity looks different at different agencies. But I say, be in control. You ask us, who else is out there that may buy my service, or do you have a contact? And I've seen folks flourish doing those types of things. And so just want to leave you with that. And I believe that's it. Lots of information in a little amount of time, but let me know if y'all have any questions that I can answer for you. But I appreciate you.
Thank you. I have a specific question. So I work for a big real estate company, but I'm also an S corporation personally. If I go after a contract, do I go as a small business myself or as the big corporate?
So big corporate meaning the folks that you work for?
Right, Berkshire Hathaway.
Yeah, that's up to you. Who do you want to get the money? Yeah. And, yeah. There is a term, and I don't know if there's any attorneys here, but I think the word, and maybe some of y'all know, I think it's called, is it collusion? Does that name ring a bell? Does that word ring a bell? Right? You do want to be clear of, and so whether that's the right word or not, commingling, but it is essentially commingling a relationship, right? And so I would, I'm not an attorney, but I would be mindful of making sure that there's a clear and clean relationship, right? And that maybe separates the two.
I have another question because I've been very adamant with the board for the past few weeks and spoke with like Ian and Emily and a couple others. And so I'm curious, just from your perspective, aside from the vendor connect, right, entering in your NAICS codes, the self-identification, certification side, on the front end, actual registration, aside from that, it's really just based on our connection with the program manager, right, to really kind of get our, I guess, face out there and really take it to the next step. There's nothing really else to do once we're registered, right?
No, that's the start. That's the start. And so whoever you work with, now your job is to put us to work, right? And so for example, it sounds like you do IT. So if I were you, I'd say, hey, can you introduce me to the IT director so I can better understand what they buy, right? And then it's like, hey, what about in aviation? Like, does aviation use any of my services? Right? And that's our job. And again, that gets back to what I was saying, holding us accountable and making us do our job. But if you only sign up for those sites, and we always say that same, I almost cussed. We say that same stuff. Every government agency is going to tell you, sign up for all that's doing is you're identifying yourself and something may pop up. But the real work is the engagement, right?
I guess I'm just trying to understand that dynamic, right? So you said like head of IT is different from the person that's actually listed on for example, right, you all have 2 upcoming contracts, the fleet management software contract and also the document analysis software, right? That name would be different that's listed on there.
Yeah.
Program manager.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to understand, what does that dynamic look like and how do they intersect?
Right. So I mentioned, let's just say you were going that direct buy route. So that's why I mentioned the head of IT, right? So if you're like, hey, something under that's not advertised, I want to know what you buy still. So that's going to be the head of IT that can directly have a conversation with you and get, you can submit some pricing or proposal or whatever. What you're seeing there on advertise is different, right? So now you're chasing something that everyone else is chasing, right? And so there's some contact information in there. There are some nuance about and some timing that and some information that, say, the project manager won't share with you once it's publicly advertised. But who is your point of contact that'll share as much as they can freely? Well, 2 things. The pre-proposal, if you haven't missed it, go there. And then also the contract administrator is the point of contact who you want to reach out to get some specifics answered. And then what they do is they shield all of us. And so even I get questions, they shield us. We respond to them and they respond to you.
So, and then just a follow-up to that.
Yeah.
I was going to just say to your question, is the PM at a level of authority to make decisions below 199, or does it automatically get kicked up above?
Or it depends on the contract?
It depends on the contract, yeah. It depends on the contract, yeah. So usually, and PM is just kind of a broad term. Anybody that puts something out, I'm a PM, right? So even if I'm spending $5,000, you know, with whatever, I'm now the PM, right? And I have that authority. And most of the time, direct buys are designed to give me that authority so I can make that direct engagement because they're designed to be quick, right?
So
Something
if
quick.
he's going for a big deal, it's going to go to the head of IT.
If he's going for a big deal, there's a whole team, you know, that's reviewing the responses.
So I have a question.
I just had one more question around just numbers. I'm a data guy, so what are the goals or metrics for women and minority businesses for this year?
Yeah, so for this year, overall, we're at about 14% women and minority business utilization. Historically, we've hovered there about between 12 and 14%. Prior to having this intentional program, we were at about 5%. And so that happened in 2019. Of that total spend, right. And then when you get down to the various contracts, it changes. So things that are, construction is our biggest driver, right? You know, so even 1% of 1 billion, they told me don't do math in public, you're a liberal arts guy, so I ain't gonna do that. But you know that's a lot of money, right? But when we talk about non-construction, we're getting some significant traction there, about 17% or so.
So it's not based on the number of contracts, it's based on the revenue?
Correct. I saw, yes ma'am. Yeah, yeah. And we have conflict of interest with the port as well too. And so say if you worked on an active port project and there's another port project coming out that may have some of those elements, right, you could conflict yourself out. It gets real messy there. Yes, ma'am.
So just for clarity on my end, when you say that there's a team of people, of course there's a team of people. So is it similar to you have a project manager, senior manager? Is that the rank? So when you say we're trying to get a hold of someone that may be to point us in the right direction or provide additional information we don't have. So if the project manager isn't available, you guys also have senior project managers and then above, or is it beneficial to also maybe speak to the project assistant who can schedule virtual meetings or get us in contact with those particular individuals?
Yeah, and again, just back to what you're chasing. So in his case, he's chasing, if we're using that example, there's something that's been publicly advertised. Explicitly, you cannot, do not interact with the PM when it's publicly advertised. At that point, it's too late once you get past pre-proposal. So you should be interacting with the contract administrator that's listed in the RFP. All right? Now, if something is a direct buy under that $199,000, if I maybe give you a contact at a respective department, you know, you're going to ask all the questions you like because the requirements are different, right? And so again, back to what we're required and allowed to do based on law. When something's publicly advertised, you know, over that amount, you have to follow that process. But when it's in direct buy, it's a little more intimate engagement, you know, for lack of better words. So she's asking about, sounds like maybe post or maybe even pre, like demo cleanup, right? So post, let's just say post-construction cleanup. Not directly with the port. So your engagements, if you're doing post or even pre-demo or let's just say demo cleanup, that's going to be engaging with that prime, right? So where I would say you would show up is, you know, you see a contract that came up, tracking it, trying to understand what the end dates are, and then you're engaging with them. Or maybe you engage with them early, but it's valuable to show up at some of those pre-bids for those construction projects, give them your card, and stay on their butt. You know, and we provide that coverage because they know that we have a goal, right, that they're trying to meet, and everybody's playing nice early, right? So, and that's the best time. We have our greatest opportunities to get folks on up front. Once it's rolling, it becomes a little bit harder. But again, I would say strategy that I would recommend for you is to identify construction projects to see where you could show up, and then we can give you a list of some of the prime contractors that have some of our jobs, right? And that's our job. She would be a sub. Yep, she would be a sub. Sub to a main.
So in theory, she could go find the contract that was awarded, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then she could find out who you awarded it to.
Yep. Yeah. And sometimes that's too late, right? You know, and you want, I've seen folks kind of create kind of a tracking list, right? Because, you know, if you think about the average construction project, it's probably about 3 years, you know? And so, you know, that's quite a bit of ways, you know, but it's certainly a value because you might meet, let's just say, XYZ big contractor now, you know, maybe they have something that's going on another job, right? But you know, if you get committed to early, even if it's down the road, they committed to you, right? So now they're to get you the scope that they promised you. Yes?
Just trying to understand that hierarchy a little bit more between the prime and the sub, and then do you all have any programs to help scale up, like you did with the concessions, for example, from a sub to a prime contractor? What are those stipulations? Because we're doing well, but we're no Accenture or rack space. Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's doing millions of dollars. So, like, what does that look like to be able to apply for a prime?
So primes are direct engagements with them. I say my job is I can't dictate who they use, right? But I can certainly support you in identifying who's out there that has our work, right? So even if we have a goal, I can't tell them who to use. That's up to them. So long as they meet what we say, 51% owner control minority for the goal, that's fine for me. But how to leverage me and others is to help us introduce you. Some of them have public outreach events and things like that. But I would say the value that I bring to you is to try to make some introductions, to say, hey, this person does this, that, or the third. You know, would you mind taking a few minutes to get to know them? You asked a second part to that. What was that?
Just like
capacity building. Yeah. I would say the extent, at least right now we had an accelerator program, but it was really just kind of workshops, just kind of helping people understand just some nuances of business. There's some good programs out there, though. So, for example, if you were in the construction space, Turner does a school of construction management, right? You go through there and you get some really good skills. And there's a lot of other organizations out there that are doing capacity building. As the port, we decided not to do any kind of capacity building because there's some really good organizations out there doing it. Another organization that I would plug is Procurement Technical Assistance Center. Solid. I don't know where are they based out of here or somewhere else? Are y'all familiar with them? Procurement Technical Assistance Center? PTAC. Yeah, PTAC. What is it called? Impact what? Apex now. Okay. All right. So some folks are familiar with that. And I'd be happy to share resources with this body, you know, if that's of value to you. But there's some really good organizations out there that help with capacity building on down to financials and even some of the technical things.
We went through the Turner program, right, later from that program. It was very informative.
That's good. Turner Construction, yep. Well, thank you all, man. I didn't think I'd use the whole hour.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much for that really great questions. I think I heard on the back that I heard that he's going to send out that presentation and then any resources available that were listed, we'll make sure that we get it out to this group. So I want to take a minute just to talk about some of the upcoming events that we have on our calendar. There's a lot of folks that are interested in networking. Networking doesn't cost you anything but your time to come and show up. So we have 3 ribbon cuttings coming up here at the end of the month. If you go to kentchamber.com, if you have your phone, it's really easy to register from your cell phone, whether you're a member or not a member. And so you just go to kentchamber.com, go to our events calendar. The first event I want to highlight is our ribbon cutting with Innings Injury Law, which is going to be up on the east side, or east Kent, up on the hill. and that's going to be on Friday, the 23rd of February. That's in the evening. The mayor always comes out and cuts a ribbon. It's a great time. It's a great time to welcome that business into Kent. It's actually their second business in Kent, but now they're up on the east side. We do have a variety of master classes available to you. Again, member or non-member, no cost to you as well. Thanks so much to our sponsors for that. So you want to take a look at those. We have another ribbon cutting on the 29th of February, which is a Thursday, and that's at Nerds to Go. So you want to make sure that you register for that. And then the third is happening, I believe, on the 1st of March. I'm looking at Madoka because she knows everything, but it's the 1st of March. And it is with Vital Vision as well. Thank you, with Vital Vision. And then we have a few signature events for the chamber, right? So we have a signature event is our Business Expo. That's in the month of May. We have our Women's Conference that's coming up. That's the 15th of March. It's a women's breakfast. It'll be held here at Green River. If you are an ally or a supporter, there are definitely sponsorships and such available. We'd love to have you all come back. We have about 7 local vendors selling products at that women's conference. We have a really great panel as well, and a keynote speaker. She wrote a book, MBA is the new motherhood. Motherhood is the new MBA, something like that. Motherhood is the new MBA. So really great keynote speakers who would love to invite not just the women, but our supporters as well to that event. And of course, we have our President's Gala, and that happens in the month of September. And then our other signature event is our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Luncheon that happens in the month of October. So again, I was not able to be here, and I'm going to show this. I'm so excited that this is a small group. But it will also be in the newsletter if you are what I call close to the cross. And you are not okay with cursing. I tried to edit out as much as possible. You may want to leave. Now is a good time. But this is really, people ask me, why do you let your staff put this together? Honestly, I don't really care, right? I'm pretty open and honest, and I think it's quite funny. I do a weekly video every single week. And when you guys get it, it's great. But before you get it, it's not so great. So we're going to do a quick little bloopers reel, and then we'll be on our way to networking. Oh, you can.
Where are we? What I'd like to describe to you, forgive me, I don't know the environmental section of the board of Seattle, so I write yay.
The introduction to the Kent Chamber of Commerce. My name. Why did I do? So that the partners have prepared something along with myself. Nope, in the recording. Hello, welcome to. Hello, happy holidays. Welcome to your weekly newsletter. This is just a really, oh, look at my lips, ciao. Hello, welcome to your weekly newsletter sponsored by King County Metro. I am Zenobia, and welcome to your weekly newsletter. I just celebrate the great businesses here and around, said the issue or praise for the chamber. This is the team you would like to, you should, for the Kent Chamber of Commerce. And this edition of your weekly, it's not weekly. Hello, welcome to your weekly newsletter sponsored by King County. Our officer for the Kent Chamber. Oh, God. Say thank you so much for celebrating Black History Month with the Chamber this month. Hi and welcome. Oh my goodness, IBEW, and why is that escaping me? Nominated for Best of Kent, and just celebrate the great businesses here and around. Said the. Yeah. Sorry, that's okay. Take your time. I'm good. Click the link below, take the one question survey, and check out all of the great businesses here in the Kent Chamber.